Today's reading is from Luke chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. And today is the feast of St. Luke the Evangelist, one of our Gospel writers. In our passage, Luke himself introduces his reasons for writing the Gospel. It's a fascinating glimpse into the first century process of the New Testament being written. As he says, many have set down accounts about Jesus. We have 4 in the Bible which were reckoned sufficiently accurate and genuine to be included. And he also says the first eyewitnesses handed on their own accounts of Jesus to those who wrote. We have to remember that this was not a literary society, it was mainly oral. So the information passed from mouth to mouth like everything else, and as a result people's memories were very, very much better than they are today. Then we learn in this short introduction that Luke was writing for a person called Theophilus, which means lover of God or friend of God in Greek. It could have been a code name. Luke himself was a Gentile, not a Jew, and evidently he was writing for Gentiles, explaining the meaning of Jesus for those without any background in the scriptures with their prophecies of the Messiah. It must have been quite a challenge. But Luke was one of Paul's companions on his missionary journeys, and he would have heard Paul preaching to many Gentile audiences. Perhaps that was his starting point. Luke wrote the Acts of the Apostles as well as the Gospel, and Acts is also dedicated to the same person, Theophilus. It was the sequel to the Gospel. I wonder how many of its readers read what we might cheekily call the prequel, the Old Testament. If you ever wonder why we have 4 Gospels and not just one, it's partly because each gives a different insight into Jesus and the aspects of Jesus that interested that writer particularly. So, for example, Matthew tells the Christmas story from a male point of view, Joseph's experience. Luke tells it from Mary's point of view, her encounter with the angel. He features Elizabeth, too, mother of John the Baptist, not just his father Zechariah. At the account of Jesus' presentation in the temple, Luke mentions the prophetess Anna as well as Simeon. He lists the names of wealthy women who supported the mission of Jesus and his disciples. And Luke's parables of the lost include the lost coin about a woman, as well as the lost sheep, the male version. Gender equality is rather a modern outlook, but Luke was certainly getting there. As a Gentile, of course, he had an interest in the mission to the Gentiles, the nations, which Paul headed up, another aspect of the inclusivity of his outlook. Luke made it clear from the very start that the gospel is for the poor as well as the rich. This is the only gospel to mention the manger where Jesus was laid at birth, and that's the evidence of Jesus' poor background. The Song of Mary, which we call the Magnificat, celebrates the way God is turning the world upside down to favour not the powerful, privileged and rich, but the others, the ordinary people, like Mary and Joseph. Blessed are the poor, says Jesus in Luke. It goes on, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, the greatest treasure anyone could have. I don't think this means that poverty should somehow be celebrated. It causes much suffering in the world. I think the point is that those who have little are more aware of dependence on God, less self-sufficient, less complacent. Jesus seems to have often talked about how hard faith is for the rich. As hard as a camel going through the eye of a needle. As long as we feel, I'm all right, I'm secure, I'm in control, we're much less likely to be trusting in God day by day. I imagine those statements must make the angels smile, because if you don't laugh, you'd cry. Imagine those humans thinking they have life sorted and filed away forever. How funny. Perhaps recent global and national events, many of them unpleasant and upsetting and sad, perhaps this has reminded us that we never do really have life neatly packaged and organised. We kid ourselves if we think that, whatever our wealth. Blessed are the poor. So when we're aware of vulnerability, of uncertainty or insecurity, let's use that to turn empty-handed to God, our loving parent, and to receive all the blessings of life from those hands.